Hello and welcome to Awakening the Blog. I would like to share with you a series of videos related to encounters with spiritual teachers. And I will start with my change in life that I actually started sharing in the last video blog about the merging of souls. And so in 1991 I left my country to go to California, the northern part of California. I was studying in Berkeley, Acupressure and Alternative Healing, and also in San Francisco where I was studying psychosynthesis, and from there I was doing a lot of courses, a lot of workshops, and doing my therapy program in the Acupressure Institute, and also the one for the psychosynthesis in the psychosynthesis training program that there used to be there. And it was amazing to meet so many teachers that were about empowering the students. I met them in the Acupressure Institute, that they were all wonderful, and they really worked on empowering ourselves, on doing all this internal work, this inner work, to help us be who we really are. And so my experience with those teachers was simply amazing. Then, while I was attending the Acupressure Institute for my diploma, I was also attending CIIS, which is California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco. And I was taking some classes with Angela Zarian about shamanism and conflict resolution, which were very interesting when she was around. And one day, this was by the end of my studies in 1993, I was sitting in the cafeteria of the University of the Institute, CIIS, and there was this girl sitting in the same table, and suddenly she asked me what were my thoughts about the Institute. When I told her where I thought she heard my accent, and she asked me where I was from, I told her I was from Ecuador, and she said, "Oh my God, I just came back from Ecuador, and this wonderful spiritual teacher blessed my crystals, and he's amazing. Why don't you give me your phone number and I'll call you and give you the information about him?" And I said, "Wow, that's interesting. In Ecuador, a spiritual teacher, a high-ranked spiritual teacher. Wow, that's amazing." So I gave her my phone number, and this was about February 1991, I believe. I forgot about it because I was still concentrated in my studies and finishing my classes so I can get on with my new life in the alternative healing modality. And the same friend I was supposed to visit in Vienna, that I mentioned in my last video, came to visit me. She came this time to visit me in the US. And I was getting ready to go back to Ecuador, and like the day before she left to Ecuador, I was leaving like a couple days after she was leaving to Ecuador, I received a phone call, and actually she left a message on the answering machine, and she says, "Oh, like 10 months have gone by, or I don't know how many," and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't call you earlier, but here's the phone number for this amazing teacher, and his name is blah, blah, blah." And so I said, "Whoa, amazing." So my friend took note of the phone number and the address of this teacher, and she went ahead of me to go see him. When I went to Ecuador, my friend took me to this place, and he was a Korean acupuncturist. He seemed to be successful because he had a lot of clients, and so it was good for me to connect with somebody that understood what I had trained in alternative healing, especially acupressure and Oriental medicine. So I started going until, you know, I settled down. I started having my own clients and everything. I was going often, you know, to this place to get needled, and I started having trouble at home with my mom and my dad, because they were telling me, especially my mom, how to dress, how to go about my new profession, how to do this, how to do that. She was giving me a hard time about my weight. She said, oh, everything. And I was like, and I was fighting with my mom and my dad all the time and saying, you know, it's my life, leave me alone, let me live it. It's not of your concern about my weight, how I dress, how I do this and how I do that. And so we had fights almost, you know, every other day about a different issue. So I would go into this place and sit, and he needled me, and I would just cry and cry and cry. And I would see how he had all these disciples, because I could not say they were students. He had disciples that were there all the time, from morning to evening. And you know, I started feeling, oh, I would love to be part of his inner circle. I mean, what does he know? What does he teach them? And how curious I was. And you know, he was very nice to me, and so I started feeling, wondering, especially, how can I get into this inner circle? I wondered, you know, how can I be accepted as his disciple? So one day he tells me that he would like to talk to me, and I said, how interesting, he wants to talk to me. I said, okay. And he said, well, come tomorrow, and at noon we'll talk. I mean, he was a very strange guy. Like, nobody can get too close to him. He would just needle the clients or the patients, and but into the inner circle, it was very difficult to approach. So I said to myself, oh wow, you know, he's wanting to talk to me, and that's interesting. Okay, I'll accept and see what he has to say. So next day I go, and I was very punctual, as I like to be, and I said, you know, I've been having some trouble settling down here, and trouble with my family, and he said, he didn't let me talk too much. He said, you know, if you knew who you were, you didn't have to be fighting back. You didn't have to be answering anybody anything, because if you knew who you were, you just knew who you were, and you knew what you were doing. I don't know if it was the way he said it, what he said, or both, that it really struck me. It really, I kind of sort of like totally understood, and I says, yes, of course. I mean, I'm always defending myself, because if I defend myself, you know, I'm protecting myself. But if I do that, it's because I'm telling them you're right. Because if I really knew what I was, I had no need to answer or enter into a conflict or anything. So what an amazing teaching he gave me. And then I said, well, he's really a teacher. He really is a spiritual teacher. And then after that, he started sort of to include me a little more in his inner circle. Not totally with the closed disciple realm, which were, I don't know, it was like 6 or 7 boys that were up and down with him. The women's circle was a little further out, but they were still part of it, but they didn't do all the training that he did with the guys. And then I started going to the martial arts class that I really enjoyed, because I had done martial arts before, and I really was looking for something like that. So I started going to the martial arts and started knowing little by little all the closer disciples he had. And he appeared to them, at least. He appeared to them as almost like a god. I mean, he was the teacher of teachers. He was the great master. Since I had come from the US, where I was self-empowered by my teachers, and I was very much in tune with myself, at least so I thought, well, you know, I saw him as equals, and I treated him as equals. He didn't like that very much, but I guess he was a little surprised as well that somebody would treat him sort of like equals when everybody was revering him as a sort of like a god, like the right hand of God. I mean, you would not believe how people took him for. I mean, they really felt and thought that he was the right hand of God. That is like what I can tell you, how people revered him and put him on a pedestal. He was an interesting personality. He was an interesting character. And he had this sense, this, I don't know how to call it, this power, this ability developed. Especially when, you know, when everybody gave their power to him, he was totally empowered, and everybody else around him was powerless. Although he wanted us to believe, especially the closest ones, he wanted them to believe that they were the future masters, that they were amazingly evolved beings. The way things were managed were very wisely, I would say. There were many lessons, many more lessons that would come along. I even wrote a book about it in Spanish. But since I'm not going to translate it to English, I'd rather share with you those experiences through the video blogs in this different parts that I will share regarding the experience with this particular spiritual teacher from the Orient. He was from South Korea. So I will give you more, and the reason why I'm sharing this by little bits and pieces is so you can digest a little bit what it is actually to be in presence of a real master, a real spiritual teacher. I mean, they can really trick us. They can be like Zen and use koans to sort of make our minds blow away. But there are certain things that can help us really see the dimensions to which you can really believe that someone's a spiritual teacher or not. Obviously, we are all teachers to each other. Yet when we rank people in certain levels and we look up to them because we believe they are in a higher level, we got to be careful with that. So we'll talk about it in the next part of this series of Not All That Shines is Gold. Thank you so much, and until the next one.